Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Your magical kiss will take me just so far. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Don't leave me like this, dangling from a star. Set me all aflame and it's so pleasing. It sure would be a shame if you were only teasing. So my love, before I go, turn the lights way down low and talk to me. Talk to me, talk to me. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and happy 4th of July. Welcome to the second edition of the Don McKeag Show, and many thanks to my good friend Ken Bukes for that wonderful intro. Some of that, of course, is from my radio show, which you are able to get in most of the towns on Saturdays. It's WXTK from 11 till 1. It's a show where we educate, mediate, infiltrate, infuriate, moderate, but mostly we don't imitate. It's the 4th of July, and those of you that are familiar with what we do here, this is a call-in show. We're on every Thursday from 6 to 7, and we heartily invite you to join us. But today is something special, and of course, we're all going through this weather change and wondering what's going to happen. Some towns were able to reschedule their fireworks for today. Most are going to try Saturday. I heard something interesting. You just can't understand. We have the Can't Fix Stupid Award, and eventually we'll have, I don't know if you're familiar with the blue-collar comedians, one of whom is Ron White, and he has a wonderful saying about you can't fix stupid. And every Thursday we're going to have a Can't Fix Stupid, but Drake-It is going to have their 4th of July fireworks August 28th. Now, maybe some of you can understand that, but it's beyond me. And I guess Plymouth and others are still under the foolishness of calling off, Duxbury it was, it called off anyway, forget the weather, to preserve the, what are those, plovers, you know. By the way, they're on the menu in South American countries. They're not an endangered species. And by the way, if the facts were known, the biggest danger to plovers are foxes, seagulls, rats, other vermin that eat eggs. It isn't the human being, and you that pay these huge taxes in Duxbury or Plymouth or anywhere else. Do you see the significance of how the left, the people who just, the reason I'm on the radio and I'm doing this show is to just point out, what they really are. They don't even know it themselves, and that is they are diminishing the Founding Fathers, and they are diminishing this country by not making the 4th of July a priority, not for the cookouts, not for the beaches, but because it is the whole reason that we have this wonderful country of ours. And when you put a priority of a bird and a bird's nest over people being able to celebrate the 4th of July, you need some help. I always mention on the radio and on this show a quote by Martin Luther. That's Martin Luther, by the way. I don't know how many are aware of him in today's politically correct country. People all know who Martin Luther King was, but the man he was named for lived between 1486 and 1528, somewhere in that area. And in 1523, he took on the entire Catholic Church. Now, this could be any church. It doesn't have to be the Catholic Church. But at the time, the Catholic Church was a basic monopoly in religious expression of Christianity. And Martin Luther saw the corruptness. He was a priest, by the way, a hard-working, dedicated priest. Not a rabble-rouser, not a troublemaker, just a lover of God and of his religion. And he saw the corruption coming out of the Vatican and throughout the church, and he confronted it. He was threatened, his life was in jeopardy, but he went through with it. And of course, Protestantism came out of it. But his comment applies so much to our country today when he says, cowardice asks the question, is it safe? Expediency asks the question, is it politic? Vanity asks the question, is it popular? But conscience asks the question, is it right? And therefore, there comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must take it because his conscience tells him it is right. I've been around here for over 70 years now, and I know the difference, and I have seen the changes. I grew up in Weymouth, the second oldest town to Plymouth. A wonderful childhood in the 50s, college in the 60s. Saw all of the chaos with the assassinations of Jack Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King. Those were bad times. Saw the Vietnam War. But I've never seen, nor did I see at that time, the deterioration that I see now in the political world. And for the 4th of July, I thought we'd do a little education, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show. I'm here to educate, as well as inform, mediate, irritate, and I hope you'll give us a call. The call is up on the screen. I can tell you what it is. If you can't see the screen well, it's 508-830-3971. Just to show you, we're all people. By the way, this country is going through exactly what's happened to Egypt and Rome and every other great culture, and all for the same reasons. And I'm going to give you some trivia and some actual founders, the founding fathers, of what they, in 1776 and throughout George Washington's term. By the way, read the book, The Patriot, I believe it is. It's George Washington, The Patriot. I wish I could remember the author. But here's Benjamin Franklin, who, by the way, was 70 years old. He was the oldest when he signed the Declaration of Independence. Only a virtuous people are capable of freedom. As nations become corrupt and vicious, they have more need of masters. We are morally bankrupt. Watch your television, and you'll see. I'm sorry. What do we have here? Yes. Okay. Are we making a correction? Okay. All right. Thank you, my boys. Steve and what's the other guy's name, Steve? Kenny? Kenny Bukes? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, all of these things, folks, just look at what we have today. John Adams lived right up here in Quincy, second president of the United States. His son, I believe, was the 12th. No, I may be wrong, but John Quincy Adams. They're both buried in the church in the center of Quincy, right? Very short drive from here. Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. We are any other right now. Did you ever think you would see the time, those of you that have been around long enough, like I have, that it would be illegal to post the 10 commandments on public buildings? That's how far down we've gone. That's how far down we've gone. And to think of all the people getting a paid day off right now that work in government that believe in that, to think of all you lawyers out there who have allowed, this is the legal system that has done this, with this minority focus all the time to the detriment of the majority, and also to the detriment of the foundation of what made this country great. We're still great, but we're going down because the leadership is not there. Samuel Adams, the sum of all is, if we would most truly enjoy the gift of heaven, let us become a virtuous people. Then shall we both deserve and enjoy it. While on the other hand, if we are universally vicious and debauched in our manners, though the form of our Constitution carries the face of the most exalted freedom, we shall in reality be the most abject slaves. Thomas Jefferson, we in America do not have government by the majority. We have government by the majority who participate. Do you participate, those that watch me, those that listen on the radio? Do you participate? I keep telling people. My own father used to tell me, and this is years ago, that he wasn't going to vote. None of them were any good, was his answer. I was a kid and I said, listen, Dad, that is absolutely wrong, and you are letting the whole country down. I don't care who you vote for. Write in somebody. But so many countries that we just take this for granted can't vote, or they have an official that's a shoo-in because they've bought and paid for it. Anyway, the purpose of the 4th of July is not for cookouts. The 4th of July is a direct result of people who put their lives, their personal fortunes, and their families in jeopardy. These founding fathers were put on billboards by the British. Had some of them been captured, they would have been hanged. John Hancock was one. But there are so many things that I don't believe education is doing enough either. I believe schools, as a former teacher, schools to me have shifted into the politically correct arena as a priority rather than as a secondary form of education. And remember, I don't care how beautiful your home is on the top. I don't care how nice your yard is. I don't care what kind of car you drive. If the foundation is cracked and crumbling, eventually that house and all the beautiful furniture and beautiful fixtures will crumble down into the basement. That's what we have today. The foundation is corroded. The foundation is falling apart. But on a lighter note, let's just look at some of the trivia. By the way, once again, you may call here at 508-830-3971. I'd love to hear from you. Now, when we get rolling here, it's only our second week, as we said, and we're going to have guests. I thought of it today, but I thought, well, maybe we'll just give people an opportunity to talk about the 4th, what it's meant to you. 2 presidents were born on the 4th of July, Ulysses S. Grant and Calvin Coolidge. The state with the most to sign the Declaration of Independence was Pennsylvania. There were 9. But, you know, there were only 2, by the way, that signed the Constitution on July 4th. most all of them signed it August 2nd. The first public reading of the Declaration of Independence was on the 8th, and actually the Liberty Bell rang out from Independence Hall to summons the crowd to listen to it. I don't know how many people were there, but the oldest, again, that I mentioned to sign the Constitution was Benjamin Franklin. The youngest was Edward Rutledge, who was only 28. He owned 50 slaves, later became governor of South Carolina. Now let's talk about political correctness and the hypocrisy to some, thanks to, again, the left, who, again, wants to erode all the good in this country. We've had our problems. We're not perfect. We're human beings. But you can't compare apples to peaches. When this country was founded in the South, the two products were tobacco and cotton. And the practice of slavery was integral in the crop creating and harvesting. Doesn't make it right. It was horrible. But there were also black slave traders in Africa who were the connection. They weren't just all white. It was a horrible page in our history. George Washington had slaves, Thomas Jefferson. It was not right. Many of them knew that. Many of them freed their slaves. Granted, much of it was as a part of their will, where they set their slaves free. But they needed them to continue to earn a living doing the product they did. It was a different world. I am not in any way, smoothing it over. But to take all that we've been through and all the sacrifices and the lives lost in the wars that we participated in to give us what we have now, including the Revolutionary War, where people didn't get paid, where people left their farms and left their wives and children for a dream of being free. And to not give that its at least equal treatment in the schools today is abominable. It's just like I mentioned last week, the way in which we've allowed this certain group to make people feel guilty about the treatment of the Native Americans by the colonists in Plymouth, not focusing on the other side, the very important side, which is, by the way, why we're even here. What other countries celebrate the 4th of July? Denmark, Norway, Sweden, and England. Now, I don't know why. It just says they celebrate the 4th of July, but I didn't have a chance to look that up as to why they would do that. By the way, do you know, again, we haven't got time to take the calls, but maybe we ought to. Kenny, should we we haven't got a prize yet. We got to get it organized here, but there was one president that played golf every 4th of July. It's pretty easy to guess because there was only one real golfing president. Who would you say, Steve?
Obama, he's playing golf.
No, he's playing golf more than for 4th of July. He's playing every weekend. Anytime there's a problem, he's playing golf. But
one of your prizes could be you can invite somebody to come.
Yes.
Or you can invite them to your radio show.
Well, that's true. But maybe we'll, yeah.
Or dinner with me.
Or dinner with you, Ken Bukes. Yes, well, that would be McDonald's again?
No, it's
At the Cranebrook, yeah, that won't happen either. Anyway, it was Dwight Eisenhower who played golf every 4th of July for, well, the 8 years he was president. I suppose today they'd be all over him. It's okay for a Democrat, of course, to play golf in any time, but anyway, we won't go there, even though I love to. In what year did the 4th of July become a paid legal federal holiday? Well, it was really 1941. It was a federal holiday. It began in 1870, but it was unpaid, which in many cases, some of these holidays should be unpaid, but of course, unions wouldn't tolerate that. If you get a day off and you're not working, you don't get paid for it. Private sector works on the 4th of July. A lot of people are working. Anyway, I remember this. A pitcher threw a no-hitter on the 4th of July. Unfortunately, it was the damned Yankees. It was Dave Righetti in 1983. And the wildest game ever played on the 4th of July was between the Atlanta Braves and the New York Mets. It went 19 innings, and the final score was 16-13. So those boys playing baseball didn't have many hot dogs that night. Imagine playing a game 19 straight innings. On July 4th, 1850, President Zachary Taylor attended ceremonies for the Washington Memorial and returned to the White House for a bowl of cherries and milk. He became sick to his stomach that night and died 5 years later. I wonder if somebody poisoned the cherries. On July 2nd, 1881, President James Garfield was shot, and he died several months later. So those were close to the 4th of July. The best one, of course, in terms of divine spirit, I believe. Of course, today that's another thing you can't do. You can't use the name God. We've got a group that wants to take In God We Trust off of our currency because it might offend someone, or it does offend someone. Of course, it's a huge minority, but that doesn't matter to liberals. If one person's offended, I've heard them say it. Doesn't matter about ceremony, doesn't matter about history, doesn't matter about majority. If one person is offended, we've got to stop it. But anyway, the most famous and I believe such an interesting keynote to this country was here two of the most impressive and the most powerful and the most hardworking of our founding fathers. John Adams, again from Quincy, first vice president the country ever had and second president, and Thomas Jefferson, I believe the fourth president. They both died on the 4th of July in the same year, which is incredible. And I believe Adams went first, and when he was dying, he said, well, Jefferson lives still. I mean, that is stories of history that matter. George Washington had a huge belief in God, and I want to read what he had to say as he took the oath of the presidency. By the way, read that book. You will have, as I did, there's always something to learn for any of us at any age. Trouble is now we don't read. We got too many of our kids on the cell phone texting rather than reading, but that's a whole nother story. Let me find when George Washington took the oath of office. So it's in the book of the Constitution. Let's find, yes, this was his farewell address. Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. You hear that? Religion and morality are indispensable supports. In vain would that man claim the tribute of patriotism who should labor to subvert these great pillars of human happiness, these firmest props of the duties of men and citizens. The mere politician, equally with the pious man, ought to respect and to cherish them. Again, religion and morality should be cherished. Let it simply be asked, Where is the security for property, for reputation, for life, if the sense of moral and religious obligation desert the oaths which are the instruments of investigation in courts of justice? Our courts of justice found it illegal to put the 10 commandments on public buildings. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not covet. Those shouldn't be posted because it might be offensive. That's where we've gone. We in America do not have government by the majority. We have government by the majority who participate. I read that already. I want to, again, reinforce it. There are many people out there. I will have them on this show, too, men and women running for office throughout the state. I have someone on my radio show on Saturdays, almost every Saturday now, right up through the election time. And I congratulate them. I ran for state rep down in Dukes County, and I was beaten badly. I ran as a Republican against a 14-year incumbent Democrat, and I ran, by the way, on what I talk about on my radio show and what I will talk about on this show. We must come to grips with the deterioration of the moral core and religious belief of this country. Every Sunday in every area, there are less and less young people attending church. This is all by design. This is all part of the efforts to bring this country down. And unfortunately, it's in the highest places. But people don't want to hear it because, again, we have the 7 deadly sins because of it. We are all capable of being greedy, lustful, slothful. Don't you love it when you hear all these politicians talking about creating jobs as if everyone wants to work? We already know how many people we have in this country who not only aren't working, but will do anything they can not to work. And we have a political party called the Democrats who win votes by catering to those greedy, slothful people. And when you say that, you're a traitor. I'm a traitor to some of my Irish, Catholic, Democratic friends. And that's fine with me, because it's not traitorous. More Democrats should be challenging the leadership and the decisions made. Just as Martin Luther challenged the Catholic Church and challenged other priests to the point where there was a revolution and it became the Protestant movement, the protest. We need a protest. Well, getting back to the 4th of July. Kenny, you got that phone turned on?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
You want me to call?
Yeah, why don't you call me? Oh, boy. Anyway, 4th of July by the numbers. On this day in 1776, the Declaration of Independence was approved by the Continental Congress, starting the 13 colonies on the road to freedom as a sovereign nation. As always, this most American of holidays will be marked by parades, fireworks, and backyard barbecues across the country. Not tomorrow, probably, not with the storm, but eventually there will be, by the way, 81 million hot dogs will be consumed. I should say, there's 81 million Americans say they will be eating hot dogs tomorrow. And the storm won't stop the hot dogs, right, Steve? I mean, how many hot dogs are you going to have?
None.
With relish, onion?
Hamburger. hamburgers.
Oh boy, that's me too, but I like a hot dog once in a while. Now, here's something, again, these are trivia things, but again, I like to inform you, educate you. There's a 1 in 6 chance the beef on your backyard grill, whether it be hamburgers or steak, came from Texas, because Texas is the leader in the production of cattle and calves. The chicken on your barbecue grill, by the way, my favorite meal, summer meal, is chicken breast on a charcoal grill, not the gas grill, charcoal grill. Fresh tomatoes out of the garden, fresh cucumbers out of the garden, and onions sliced and put in vinegar. Corn on the cob, and a salad. That's it. That to me is heaven. You can let me know what your favorite. You're probably just hamburger. I can't hear you. Anyway, the chicken on the grill probably came from one of the top broiler producing states: Georgia, Arkansas, Alabama, North Carolina, and Mississippi. Again, all southern states. Lettuce, all the lettuce that you're going to put on the hamburger or in a salad comes from California. This is something. 3/4 of all the lettuce in the United States, produced in the United States, comes from California. Fresh tomatoes most likely came from Florida or California, which combined produce more than 2/3 of the United States tomatoes. The ketchup is probably also from California. California produces 95% of the ketchup in the United States. That's very interesting. As to potato salad or potato chips or fries, Idaho, of course, and Washington produces about 1/2 of the nation's spuds. Watermelons for dessert. 6 states, California, Florida, Texas, Georgia, and Arizona, and Indiana, combined to produce 80% of the watermelons last year. If you have an apple pie, it's the state of Washington or New York are the 2 highest producing apple states. Now here's something for fireworks. $190.7 million worth of fireworks is going to be imported from China. That's the bulk of it. Japan, we purchased $37 million. No, pardon me. Japan purchased $37 million from us. Now that's interesting. We import $191 million worth of fireworks, and then Japan buys 37 million of it. By the way, just in my life and the history of, I became very good friends with a former Red Sox first baseman that many of you will remember. He was a dear man. His name was Walter Dropo from Woosop, Connecticut. He played for the University of Connecticut, and then he came up with the Red Sox back in the, I think, late 50s, early 60s. No, it was late 50s. And Walter was the only man to be on the same team, a Red Sox team, when Ted Williams was playing and was on the team. He was the only man to ever hit more home runs in a given season than Ted Williams did. And he was traded to Cleveland, maybe because Ted didn't like him hitting more home runs. But why I bring Walter up, when I owned the restaurant in Hyannis called the Asa Burris House, some of you may remember, I hope. Walter would come down weekends, and when he retired from baseball, he went into the fireworks business, he and his brother. And they would make 4 to 5 trips to China every year, and they would buy the fireworks for resale. Of course, they couldn't sell them in Massachusetts. Most all of the sales were in the southern states, and then of course they'd move the goods illegally up here so that we can set them off. How about flags? The dollar value of U.S. imports of American flags 2 years ago, more than half of the amount, $2.8 million, was for U.S. flags made in China. Now that is something that we should be able to rectify. That's not saying much when our American flags that we're putting in our yard, I put a whole bunch out on my yard, all the holidays, all the Veterans Days, and I don't know where they came from. I don't know. I don't remember. I've had them for a long time, but that's pretty sad that we're not making our own flags. And of course, they're cheaper. That's why. But by the way, there are 50 flags flown 24 hours a day at the Washington Monument. Other places where American flags are flown continuously include Fort McHenry in Baltimore, Maryland, the United States Marine Corps Memorial, that's Iwo Jima Memorial, in Arlington, Virginia, and on the Battle Green in Lexington, Mass., and then, of course, over the White House in our nation's capital. 66 million is the number of visits in recent years to the United States national parks, a particularly scenic locale for a July 4th picnic. 766 million visits. This is not individuals. This is buses, and any group that comes is counted only as one. In California, 80 million visits. Ohio, 59 million. New York, 56 million. Washington, 48 million. And Illinois, 44 million, recorded the highest number of visits. By the way, this is a good time. Again, we'll have Ron White. You can't fix stupid. We'll have his award and his recording. I see these things in these different newspapers, and it's incredible. I know that it's just part of the media, but I just pick up on it. This gets my award. It got my award last week. It's the Los Angeles Times. This was published in the Cape Cod Times, who, of course, are affiliated with the New York Times. Expect more traffic on the road this 4th of July. Now, there's no question there'll be 4th of July. The reason I say that's stupid is those of us, any of you know, the 4th of July, has there ever been a 4th of July when there wasn't more traffic, heavy traffic? But this is a great, this is a great expose and important information for those of you that are traveling. But here's where these subtle little ways in which the media props up today's present administration and others that don't see the dangers that are happening to the working class in this country. Despite, now this, these are all kind of factual, but they're also, if this was George Bush, there would be huge outrage over the price of gasoline. By the way, I just came in and I saw $3.79 in Falmouth, and it's $3.73 to $3.76 for regular. Now, we are pushing up to $4. When's the last time you read or heard any outrage against Washington or the state of Massachusetts, anyone supporting the working family who now is trying to travel? I don't care whether they're going to New Hampshire or the Cape or to Plymouth, and every week they're putting more and more of their spendable income, which is diminishing at a rapid rate, toward gasoline. Where's the outrage? Once again, I'm going to continue to remind you, when it was $1.82 and George Bush and Dick Cheney were in the White. This isn't about Republican and Democrat, but it is about Republican and Democrat. I'm not sticking up for Republicans. I am an independent. But I want the same standards for both parties, and we're far from getting that. The media was and of course that was an election year, all over George Bush and Dick Cheney over the gas prices. All over them. They said they were in the tank with ExxonMobil. George Bush's family was an oil state from Texas. They were oil people. Not one word about this guy that's in there now or about any Democrat. Shameful. They have no shame anyway, so that's the way it is. But anyway, road trips. Oh, listen to this. This is why I bring this up. The forecast by AAA attributes the increase to a rise in consumer confidence. Do you believe that? Give me a call. Somebody that's got the phone going. 1-508-830-3971. Are the people honestly more confident? They are not more confident. They're going to pay whatever it takes to go to the Cape, to New Hampshire, to the mountains, anywhere. It's 4th of July weekend, you nitwits in the press. It isn't a consumer confidence growth. It's unbelievable. And by the way, did you know this also indicates a greater willingness to take on credit card debt and also an improved employment picture. This is what the liberal press continues to lay on you and me and the foolishness out there of people who will always stick by the Democratic Party no matter what. To be able to turn around, increase road traffic with the increased expense, and to be able to twist the fact that credit card use isn't about confidence, it's about necessity. The national average price of gasoline, a gallon of gas, is about 20 cents higher than it was on the 4th of July, 2013. 20 cents. Never mind what this guy Patrick did to Massachusetts. What was it, 40 cents? 40 cents. But of course, he's wonderful, and the public loves the fact, the Democrats love the fact, the poor love the fact that he has increased the minimum wage. He's looking out for you, poor people. Of course, he's already taken away any increase in your minimum wage. You're also going to be paying more for your Social Security, and so is your employer. Good workers aren't on minimum wage in this country, in this economy. Good workers can find work. Why should they when the Democrats want to give them over a year of collecting unemployment? Again, getting back to our founding fathers. We are so far away, and it's one party that's become that. It wasn't the party that was led by John F. Kennedy or by Harry Truman. It's the party that's been led lately by nothing but purchase your vote mentalities. Auto rental rates will be about the same as last year, while the average airfares to the most popular destinations will be down 5%. It's unbelievable, isn't it? So take a negative, a reality, and turn it into a positive. All of our people are much more confident now in this economy, and that's why they're traveling more. Gas is higher, but that's great because they like it. You all like it. It's incredible, but $74 billion volume of trade from the United Kingdom. This is the irony they point out. Of course, we fought the war we had the Declaration of Independence to separate ourselves from Great Britain, and yet the United Kingdom is the largest, pardon me, it's the 6th leading trading partner today. So, but of course we didn't have any trouble buying Japanese cars. I'm old enough to remember after World War II, my father would be upset seeing people buying Japanese products because he had friends and other people he knew who were killed in the war against Japan. But doesn't matter, and we're all supposed to forgive and forget anyway, especially when it didn't affect you. I wanted to bring something also that I just saw in one of our papers here that I hope those in Plymouth, I know we have a lot of different towns all over the place. Kenny was just telling me, I'm amazed, and Steve. What were some of the towns you said that can watch us? Essex, wow. But there's 17 or 18 towns that watch this show. Georgetown, yeah. What else?
Tewksbury.
Tewksbury gets it. Is that amazing?
Middleborough, Lakeville.
Well, anyway, I've got to go up now. I've gone by it, but I don't know if you were all aware of the National Monument to the Forefathers in Plymouth. We all know about Plymouth Rock, and we also know about, you know, the Mayflower and so forth. But August 2nd, the National Monument, referred to as Faith, is going to celebrate an anniversary of 125 years. It's right up on the top of the hill, and it was built during the Civil War. She has been the host to some of the largest gatherings held in Plymouth over the years. She was conceived in the mind of Hammett Billings in 1855, and her cornerstone was laid in 1859 in a lavish celebration hosted by the Plymouth Society. She was completed in 1889 with another huge display of patriotism and fanfare. But at completion, she was only half of her originally designed size due to the costs of the Civil War. Yet she is 81 feet tall. It's a beautiful thing to see. Even President Abraham Lincoln donated $10 to her construction in 1861. She is called Faith, and she's sitting atop the National Monument to the Forefathers here in Plymouth. It was a bold kind of faith in God. God, I hope that offends someone out there. A faith in God that brought the pilgrims from Europe to America. They didn't come here to go to McDonald's. They didn't come here for cheaper gas, and they didn't come here to pick strawberries. They came here with a bold kind of faith in God. That faith is depicted in stone here in Plymouth to remind coming generations in America's hometown and around the world of the significant contributions of our forefathers. Some call her America's best kept secret or a national treasure. For years she was known simply as Faith Monument, but her official plaque reads the National Monument to the Forefathers. And again, August 1, she turns 125. In 1989, a centennial celebration was held, jointly sponsored by the Plymouth Society and the town of Plymouth. This summer, another celebration will take place, sponsored by the Plymouth Rock Foundation and the town. So on Saturday, and the Plymouth 400 Committee will sponsor Forefathers Fun Day too. So in 2020, of course, that's going to be a huge, tribute also. Thursday evening, the movie monumental, the 2011 film that featured Forefathers Monument will be shown free of charge at Memorial Hall. And it will be introduced and hosted by co-producer Marshall Foster. In addition, there'll be a reenactment of Patrick Henry's famous "Give Me Liberty or Give Me Death" speech from the 1775 House of Burgesses. Anyway, so there's going to be a whole, it'll begin at 6 p.m. It's been held since 1921, and it progresses along its usual route past Plymouth Rock and up Leyden Street to the top of Burial Hill. And so this is something to look forward to for those that live outside of Plymouth. So I just, I'm hoping to just, in my small way, doing this show, to reinforce what needs to be revisited on a regular basis. I understand the society has changed for a variety of reasons. The biggest negative is a wonderful invention called television, but it is a negative. And it has become a showcase for immoral programming. Thank heaven, there's still on PBS and other networks, they show some wonderful, they're capable of doing wonderful things. But if, like me, you sit there and you click your channel selector and you look at just the names of the titles, and you look at the foul language that our kids now are not only using, but are being inundated with in every area. The focus on sex, the focus on today and now and immediate gratification. We're doing a disservice to our youth. And again, the world is supposed to be a better place because we lived here. And to me, it isn't. My generation has dropped the ball. We are the baby boomers. We're the young that came after World War II, the war that was supposed to end wars. We're the generation that watched Korea ignite, and my father lost his second cousin a day after the war ended in Korea from Quincy. And there's just not enough appreciation, I believe, and it's corny to talk about religion today. You get this shrug from young people. You know, talk about foul, vile songwriting and behaviors. You know, we have a nation of selfishness. We have a nation of immoral behavior. And I am far from a pinnacle of moral turpitude. This is not me on a soapbox. I just feel we owe it to our children and grandchildren to at least confront it. I'm not saying, I don't believe it can be reversed, and that's terrible. I've never had a negative opinion about the future. And I still think there are so many terrific young people and terrific people in this country. God bless those that are serving their country. But those making the decisions, those in the political scene, are very lacking in general. And what you see is those who have qualities that would turn things around can't get elected because we've created our own demise. We have the thing that again, getting back to Abraham Lincoln, I've kept this and I refer to this as I'm going to now because it's so pertinent to me as to what has transpired over these years in this country that is terribly sad, and that is about the working population and the idea that young people and their parents have done it. Their parents don't. My mother, she didn't care. I had a restaurant, and I had mothers come and say that they, they wanted to pick up their son's check. and I wouldn't give it to them for a busboy. And the mothers got mad. They couldn't understand. And I said, why don't you let your young man become a man? He's able to, get on his bike. Don't drive him everywhere. He's the one that worked here. He's the one I give the check to. Now, if he was sick or something, that's a different matter. Well, they made the boy quit. So that is not, to me, conducive to the creation of a healthy, hard-working society. I guess maybe I don't have it with me. I thought surely I did, but I do that. And that is, again, very interesting, though. I have a quote here by Napoleon. And, of course, Napoleon was a military man. Also, he was the founder of the public school system. Actually, he didn't. It goes all the way back to Greece. And Egypt had a... But here's a quote that's interesting. When you see the control now that the media has, don't you love it? If you're open-minded, that's all I ask, is to be open-minded. And when I hear people whining about Fox News as being biased, it's just laughable. Fox News is such a minority position in the media in general, but again, you're not supposed to ever speak against this bunch today that is in control. But the danger has never been different than it was in Napoleon's time. Here's a quote. 4 hostile newspapers. This is now 1808 or thereabouts. 4 hostile newspapers are more to be feared than 1,000 bayonets. So even then, and of course the press is supposed to be out there. I don't want to take away freedom of the press. I want to take away the freedom of the press to lie to us and to be biased. They're supposed to be balanced, and they're not. So, anyway, installment number 2, we are coming up to the end. No calls. I presume a lot of people are on the road and doing other things, and I hope that we see some participation. But more than that, God bless, and I hope you all have a wonderful, safe, and happy 4th of July, with or without your family. And I would just hope that you'll take a moment to remember, especially those of us here in Plymouth, the heart of it, the nest of where so much occurred and where we owe so much, and so much beauty. I hope you will take a moment, even during your cookouts, and call attention to it to your young people. And thank you for watching, listening, and again, have a wonderful weekend. This is Don McKeag signing